Hello, folks. Welcome to this episode of FEAST Foreplay, the place where we're having conversations about what's to come in the FEAST world, Festival of Embodiment and sexual transformation. I'm really excited to be joined by Heide Getrost today. I've been aware of Heidi's work and we've had crossover in FEAST before and a number of other spaces, and she brings an incredibly playful and grounded approach to some really beautiful sexuality education and experience. And I've witnessed and been a part of Heidi's workshops, and yeah, I just love the way you work in that element of like curiosity and play that you bring to a lot of your work. I think you have some element of kink background, and yeah, it's a gift to have that in the space. So I'm excited to chat with you today.
Thanks, Jordan. Thanks so much for the opportunity. I'm really excited to be here.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. So I'd love to dive in with the first question we've been asking pretty much everybody. And that question is, what was your first experience in a group erotic learning space? And what did that lead to in your life in the months and years that followed that, seeding experience?
Yeah, thanks. That's a great question. And I really had to think about it. When was my first experience? Because I've been really diving into
Mm,
sexuality and sex positive spaces for at least over 9, 10 years now. But I think my first original exploration started with going to my first tantra festival, which is the Taste of Love Festival here, local in Byron Bay, which is where I
mm,
live. And that's where I first had the experience of a group environment for education and exploration. And I really loved the way it was held, the diversity of workshops, diversity of the experience of the facilitators there. And I felt it became a real step inwards to myself and onwards into my path into really exploring sexuality
mm,
in myself first. And then from there, I kind of felt really drawn to becoming a practitioner after, attending many more festivals and trainings and becoming assistants to faculty and facilitators through the years. And I also dove quite deeply into a body of work called ISTA. And I know many people have had different experiences in that body of work, but for me personally, it was very positive and
mm,
very transformative for me. And I went through and did many of their trainings. I became an assistant at many levels as well. And, that work also really shaped who I was, who I've become in the sexuality space, and also ignited my passion for really wanting to help others, especially as a practitioner. And yeah, I've always had a sense that I'm a healer after arriving in Byron over 14 years ago, coming from the corporate banking sector in London and
wow.
IT. So I've got this kind of real interesting background of being an engineer, IT developer, software developer, and arriving here in Byron, really moving into, wow, there's more to life than
Mm,
just living from my head and
mm,
being in an intellectual space, but
yes.
really coming into my body, doing a lot of deep healing, personal transformation work for myself, and then knowing I have gifts. So
Mm,
I was hunting around which is my modality, and I've
mm,
done many different workshops at many different levels for different modalities. But sexuality, it's almost like sexuality found me
mm,
as my true north and my what I call soul purpose, and
mm,
that's why I'm so deeply driven to keep moving with the work, keep having new experiences, keep evolving, keep learning, keep training myself to bring more.
mm, mm.
Mm.
Amazing. Yeah, I love hearing the contrast of like where you've come from and where you've ended up, and it's such different worlds. And it also sounds like so clear how much of a ignition point that that first experience in a festival space was for you.
Mm.
It's led to an entire like life purpose essentially, which is incredible. And I resonate a lot with that for my own journey, of like really finding a calling here and feeling like, this work chose me in a way, not the other way
Mm.
around. Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't got any choice about it, really.
Sometimes I want to turn off, but nah,
uh,
kicks me right back on.
I just have to keep going for this. This is
Yeah.
my path,
Yeah, and it is challenging sometimes, right? Because we live in a world that does not have a context for this. And, our bubble, I'm in Byron as well, and our bubble here is very supportive. And we're still working with a mainstream culture in a world that really doesn't understand, this work, has a lot of judgment and fear around, what sexuality is around, this part of humanity. And also, societies that are experiencing a lot of damage from this part of humans because it's not related with or with awareness, or knowledge of how to, sit consciously in that space. I feel like, this is dovetailing perfectly into my next question for you, which is, what do you think makes doing erotic development work so important and perhaps so unique next to all of the other kinds of, self-growth or spiritual exploration we can do?
Yeah. Look, I think, everything that we do in self-development is supportive of each other. Don't stand alone. But for me personally, when I found sexuality or found me in terms of a modality to really work with and explore and expand within myself and become a practitioner and to help others do the same, I really feel like, speaking personally and what I also, witness in clients and people I work with, it brings it's a way of really coming home to yourself. And when I say that, that can mean so much for so different people. What does coming home to yourself mean? It's like a cliche, right?
Yeah.
But for me, it's really coming home to my body and knowing my body, owning my body, releasing the shame around it, becoming more free and what I call erotically alive, and being able to live from that kind of life force energy that moves through us or can move through us when we can really open and tap into it, and become more radiant and magnetic in our lives. And, so yeah, working with, Eros and the erotic body, I feel it's a pathway into that place. And everyone has a different, unique imprint or starting point or a makeup of, that's sort of built upon, their past life, not past lives, but, talking Byron now, but when, their childhood,
Yes, yeah.
their lifetime
Yeah.
experiences, their belief structures that they grew up with, how they've been conditioned to think around sexuality, past trauma, any sense of shame around their body, all that. And sort of like really, I feel such a powerful way to work and help people, because it really just coming back into what is your experience right now in your body, really identifying, knowing your real, what's your true yes and true no when you're presented with a choice. And that's not necessarily in a partnership or sexual expression, but it's like, what's my true yes for moving into state, or what's my true yes for kind of burger I want to have for lunch today? It's kind of like, really knowing yourself more. And and there's so many pieces that can dovetail on top of that. But I think that's why it's so powerful. It's not just better sex. And of course, that is one of the many reasons people would come to work with, yourself or myself and other, practitioners in somatic sexology. But it's bigger than that. I feel, it's not just the how to, it's also like, how do I fully become embodied and live erotically?
Yeah, I feel that so strongly. And I really consistently get this sense of like this, these modalities working in this way, being a doorway to, like the center point of us as individuals, and we can kind of work on the outer layers, I imagine, almost like the onion peeling metaphor, but if we cut through to the core and we work from that place, then it all just emanates out, and it ripples through everything from the inside out. And so there's a directness and a intensity and a confrontation and getting to know of something deep within us that seems to be a common experience and a common aspect of doing this work, and people going, I had this feeling, but I never could articulate this about myself before. I was developing confidence, but it never landed this deeply. I always got into this situation and still struggled. And it's like these breakthroughs that, crash dominoes down through different levels or something. So it's beautiful. You speak to that.
And, the main pillars I feel is like around sexual empowerment, and I call erotic aliveness and sexual empowerment two separate things. But sexual empowerment for me is, really owning our pleasure unapologetically. and knowing our boundaries, yes and no, really coming into our power and living from that space and really being able to speak and know our own desires. So, all of that, and that builds confidence, not only in the bedroom, but in life,
Yeah,
right?
totally,
Yeah.
totally. Amazing. I'd love to hear a little bit about, like obviously sexuality is the modality that we both work with. It's what you're passionate about. And there's a lot in it, as we've already been discussing. There's many different facets to this exploration and this way of supporting and working with people. Are there particular aspects of it? Are there particular challenges that people face or growth opportunities that people come to you for that you're most passionate or excited about supporting people in working with?
I think I'm excited about everything. It's kind of my problem.
Excitement is just a byproduct of everything I've cultivated in myself.
Look, I feel if you want to ask me, is there a common thread? I feel like, it's empowerment. Really, and I spoke to us in our last question was sexual empowerment, and that encapsulates so many things.
Mm,
And I guess, I kind of welcome all genders, all beings, that want to come and work with me. And unfortunately, I live in Byron Bay, fortunately and unfortunately, because it's a small area, but I'm
totally.
really starting to bring through more work online as my plan for
Nice.
2025. And I'm working towards that so I can work remotely with people long term.
Yeah, right.
Um, so, yeah, I feel like I think what I'm most passionate about is, really helping people come back to themselves
Mm,
first
mm,
and not get distracted by the I need to have more orgasms, I need to be
mm,
more orgasmic.
mm,
Can you help me come?
mm,
Or erectile dysfunction, etc. It's like what is really coming intrinsically back to the basic baseline of who are you today?
yeah,
Where do we begin this body of work? Because it's for everyone, it's totally different. And I kind of enter the state of really deep listening
mm,
and just meeting that person where they're at. And
mm,
that can be in a range of different places, but really, when I start working with somebody, it's really let's get back to the basics.
mm,
Do you really know yourself? Do you
yeah,
know your own desires? Do you know what pleasure feels like in your body? Do you know your yes and your no, your boundaries? Do you know what consent is like? The real simple
mm,
foundational
mm,
pieces, I think, can't be missed. And do you know how to regulate yourself when
mm.
life is a complete frickin' world storm around you and a storm
Totally.
like Cyclone Alfred, right? And how do we keep ourselves centered in the midst of
Mm,
all that through basic, simple embodiment practices,
mm, mm,
So, and then from there we can build.
yeah.
And something I'm super passionate about is body work. I
Mm,
love working with the body and moving and clearing energetic blocks as I work with the body and for people to really get to know themselves through my touch
mm,
and their own touch guided.
mm.
Yeah.
Oh,
So,
that's beautiful.
so yeah. And then I have the kinky side,
Yeah.
which is something I'm also really passionate about, which I love. And that's something I'm also developing a bit more and getting more training around is how
Mm,
to really work somatically with people with the intention of healing using kink and play
mm,
around that. So
mm.
yeah, my intentions are always around how can we clear what's in the way for you to become more of the
Yeah,
erotic
yeah,
self.
yeah, beautiful. I love that. You've been speaking essentially to like how you work and you've spoken to your training background somewhat at the beginning. I'm curious though, like how can people work with you in a really practical sense? What styles of work do you offer? We'll put your links to your work in the show notes, but I'd love you to share briefly how you work with people.
Yeah, look, I work quite humbly. I'm not a big marketing person, so a lot of people lately have gone, "I know you from somewhere. I've
Mm,
seen you before," and I'm
mm,
like, "Okay, is it Feast? Is it Taste of Love?"
yeah,
Because I also do, facilitate at Taste of Love the last 3, 4 years. And I'm super proud to be part of the Feast team again this
mm,
year.
mm,
But it's really interesting how people have seen me out there, even though I'm not very good at marketing, which is another thing I'm building in 2025,
mm,
is, really more of an online presence. So
yeah,
at the moment, I see people one-on-one in my session space in Ocean Shores. And that's been a lot of word of mouth and referrals from local community, other healers and therapists. And yeah, I have my website, which I'll give you the link to. People can find me and get a sense of me there and how I like to work. But I like to work with people, not so much for a one-off experience. It's more like, how can we drop in deeply into this body work over a 3-6 month container? Because that's where I feel the real change and transformation can happen, because it's not just go for a one yoni mapping, let's say, or another experience similar, and think everything's going to change from that one experience. It's kind of like, it needs to be something you're really committed to wanting to show up for, do the practice yourself on a daily basis, and use me as a guide to hold and support you and move through, the blocks and the fears and whatever, and bring practices that I feel are really unique to who you are today, and then we evolve from there. So it's an evolution over a period of time. And that's, and I love working with people who are really committed to their own development and growth. Because it's an inside job, and I'm your guide, really. That's how I sort of feel and support, and have my all the tools and techniques that I have from 20 plus years of self-development and sexuality for 9. So
I love that you spoke to the unique exploration of finding practices and growth opportunities for each individual, because I feel like that's something that's really common across the sexological bodywork modality, and a lot of people's different expressions and uses of it is finding practices and adapting practices that are really, uniquely tailored to the individual. And a lot of spaces or, coaches can be quite prescriptive in like, go and do this and this will sort you, and there's a real, we take time in these modalities to listen, to get to know, and to co-create things that are really going to jump you to the next step into where you want to go, which is so needed, because I think there's so many people that are just handing away their leadership, and then they move on from working with the person and they still can't experience any of their own leadership, whereas in the way we work, we really share that with people and help them grow it in themselves so that they know what self-leadership and creativity is like, and they have that for life. Then it's not something that they're reliant on us for.
Totally. And I love sometimes in sessions something completely unique comes up for that person. I've never done it before, and I'm like, that's exactly what they needed in that moment. And then we build a home play practice from there. And then they get this little library of practices that they have online to refer to over in their own time. And they actually, I was really touched. The client said, oh, I refer back to that all the time, because I thought, was this being used? I create an online library for my clients and them to refer back to their practices. And it's really, I love it. Love hearing that people actually using the work together for them. But I really feel like it's empowering people to take what they're learning and practicing with me and them for themselves back home and home play, and then they do have it for life, and they build on that for the next experience that they want to, the next sort of edge of growth. 100%.
I'm curious, Heidi, what you think the biggest obstacle is for many people stepping into sexuality work, and how you personally deal with that, or how you support them to come up, overcome or meet that edge when they're potentially approaching work with you.
Look, I feel like everyone needs to feel safe with whichever therapist or type of therapist practitioner they choose to work with, and really having a rapport with that person. Because without that safety, then especially this kind of work is and can be very tender, very intimate, very vulnerable. So, that for me is key. That person that is coming towards me, wanting to work with me, feels really a big fuck yes to working with me. And the way I kind of invite that in is I still do discovery calls with people, and just to have a check-in conversation before they come to, the session. So they've got an understanding of who I am, I've got an understanding of who they are and what they're bringing, what they want to work with. And then we know, oh, we're a really good fit.
Yeah.
Is that a yes for me? Is it a yes for you? So we can both make an informed decision of, working together. And that immediately starts the safety, the sense of holding. And I feel like my years of experience and my age group that I'm in, what I bring is like a lifetime of, personal experience as well as my trainings and expertise in different areas. Is a real deep sense of holding in a mature way and a very deep empathetic listening is a skill I feel I bring that really helps someone just feel held in their vulnerability and their pain and whatever else has been going on, So I think that's essential. That client practitioner relationship is primary, I feel.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
we
so
can't get very
safety.
far without that.
Yeah, and it's the same for when running workshops in various ways and forms. It's first like really let's get safe together as a group.
Totally.
Let's move and land together in group safety. Let's make group agreements if we need to, et cetera, et cetera. So I think that's also, it's the same thing, like the body, the animal body needs to feel like, oh, I can sit here and I can relax, even before knowing what regulation, if someone doesn't know what self-regulation is or being regulated means, they just need to know okay, I'm here and I'm in a good place.
Yeah. Awesome. It's been so lovely to receive some of your wisdom and, particularly your passion and hear more about your unique life experiences. Like I didn't know a lot of your background myself. And so it's awesome to hear, where you've traversed in life and how you've come to this journey. I've got one more question or point that I'd love to invite you into, and that is to finish the sentence and you can say these words back to me. I'm going to Feast 2025 because...
Well, I could make this a very long sentence. We're trying to be concise and punchy. I'm going to Feast 2025 because this has been my third year. First year I came as a participant, the second year I ran 2 workshops, and this year I'm very excited and privileged to be running a workshop again. And I just love the community. It's a really well, safely held space. Really, there's a real professional holding for sexuality that I've been in many different sexuality, sex positive spaces, but I really think it's a beautiful, safe space, especially for people who are just venturing out into the space. And personally, I'm looking forward to seeing all my fellow friends and practitioners and meeting new friends and just really being in service to community there, because I love holding space. I love the teaching. I love, helping people really awaken into their new possibilities of erotic living, being erotically alive, being sexually empowered. And I just love being part of that.
Yeah, wonderful. Thank you so much, Heidi. It's awesome to have you on our team again. We love what you bring and are very excited to be seeing you in the not too distant future at all. It's coming right towards us. Feast 2025, 22nd of May to the 25th of May. If anyone wants to connect with Heidi, if you want to get to know Heidi and her work, then jump on the links below this episode and you can follow her through her website or her social media. Thank you again, Heidi. We'll see you very soon.
Yeah. Do you want to know a bit about my workshop or?
Yeah, sure. We can put a little bit of that in.
A little quickie on that. So my workshop is Amplify Your Orgasmicity, and it's one I love running. I've done it before, and it's for all genders, and it's kind of like really exploring your orgasmic terrain, and it's completely unique to everyone. So it's certainly not about goal orientated. You got to come here and have an orgasm. It's like exploring where you're at. And like it's for people someone who's like just exploring orgasmicity or isn't very orgasmic at all, or has a set pattern or way of always becoming orgasmic the same way, or they may be multi-orgasmic and they're fully the full spectrum of possibilities of our orgasmicity, our beautiful human pleasure body. And yeah, it's sort of really a place for people to come and explore what is an orgasm, what is orgasmicity, what is orgasmic terrain, what does it look like for you, how does it feel like for you? And we'll be going through a range of teaching a range of practices to help people really explore that in their own space in the workshop. It's a solo practice, blindfolds on, so there's real sense of privacy best we can in a group setting. And it's always really beautiful to come into a group setting because you actually feel the energy of everyone around you to really go, oh, maybe I'll try it this way or that way. And it's completely many options there as well, how you'd like to approach it. So yeah, I'm really excited to be bringing that, and yeah, and people can take the practices home and keep exploring and growing, and even just learning one new thing can change everything. Right? Because I went to a workshop not long ago which inspired this one, and I just learnt that just smiling during orgasm or self-pleasuring, like really smiling, laughing, changed brought it through to a whole other level. So yeah, so I'm quite excited to
awesome. Lots of gifts there, lots of potential for people to learn and experience new sensation, new possibilities themselves. So really, really wonderful.
Yeah.
Thank you again.
All right. Thanks, Jordan. Thanks for the opportunity, and really looking forward to seeing you soon.
Likewise, our pleasure. Thanks, Heide.
Thanks.